War at sea is a world of steel storms and silence, where the horizon decides who lives and who vanishes beneath the waves. These are the naval war movies sailors actually respect because they show the truth behind duty pressure and sacrifice. From claustrophobic submarines to thunderous carrier decks, these films capture what service at sea truly feels like. Number 15. Crimson Tide, 1995. Crimson Tide storms onto the screen with a pounding urgency that mirrors the real tension aboard a ballistic missile submarine. Sailors respect the atmosphere because it understands one thing perfectly. Life on a nuclear boat is pressure, endless pressure. Every breath echoes with the weight of global consequence. The film dives deep into that psychological realm, and sailors recognize that authenticity immediately. The steel corridors feel alive. The sonar stations hum with unease. The constant drills reflect the relentless rhythm of life beneath the ocean. Yet the movie also sparks heated debate among actual submariners. The Central Mutiny storyline is pure dramatic invention. Protocols that the film suggests could collapse under human ego are in reality hardened by decades of rigorous discipline. The Navy does not run on impulse. It runs on procedures carved from sacrifice and failure. Still, even with its fictionalized conflict, Crimson Tide earns respect because it captures the emotional core of command pressure. What do you do when the world expects perfection? What do you risk when hesitation could end millions of lives? The duel between the captain and the executive officer is not about realism. It is about illustrating how isolation magnifies every decision at sea. The real tension of submarine warfare is not always in firing torpedoes. Sometimes it is in silently suffocating under responsibility 30 stories beneath the surface. Sailors acknowledge the dramatization, yet admire the craft. The atmosphere is true, the burden is true, and the fear of irreversible choices is absolutely true. That is why, despite inaccuracies, Crimson Tide remains a respected entry in naval cinema. Number 14. The Bedford Incident, 1965. The Bedford Incident is not a film of roaring broadsides. It is a slow, tightening noose, a psychological descent that mirrors the cold, relentless tension of the real Cold War seas. Sailors respect this film because it shows how fear and obsession can sink a ship just as surely as any torpedo. The captain, embodied as a man driven by absolute conviction, demonstrates a truth every sailor knows. Command is not simply authority, it is weight, crushing and constant. The film explores the razor edge between training discipline and dangerous escalation. A single misinterpreted signal, a raised voice, an unfinished report can set off a chain reaction. Sailors have lived through these delicate moments where professionalism is the only barrier between routine patrol and disaster. That reality pulses through every scene. The captain hunts a Soviet submarine not with fury, but with a grim, ritualistic determination. The crew trembles under his expectations, yet they follow protocol because protocol is survival. The ocean does not forgive emotion. The film respects crews by showing their competence. Sailors recognize the authenticity in the tight procedures, in the rhythm of watch rotations, and in the subtle camaraderie that forms under stress. But the Bedford Incident also delivers a sobering warning. The greatest danger aboard a warship is not always the enemy. It can be the destruction that grows from within when command loses the ability to bend. The final moments hit sailors hardest. The crushing silence, the irreversible mistake, the icy realization that arrogance can ignite catastrophe faster than any missile launch. Veterans often say this film captures the real Cold War mood far more accurately than the louder thrillers that came later. It is not about action. It is about the haunting truth that discipline and restraint are the only anchors holding back chaos at sea. That truth earns sailors respect. Number 13. The Enemy Below, 1957. The Enemy Below stands as one of the earliest films that truly understood the chess match of naval warfare. Sailors praise the movie because it treats both captains as professionals locked not in hatred, but in a deadly mutual test of skill. This respect between adversaries is something real sailors admire deeply. At sea, you do not always fight monsters. Sometimes you fight reflections of yourself. The American destroyer and the German submarine circle each other through brilliant tactical sequences that sailors instantly recognize as grounded in reality. This is not random action. It is careful maneuvering, It is listening to the heartbeat of the ocean. It is interpreting tiny clues in water temperature, sonar echoes, and propeller rhythms. Decisions happen in seconds. Consequences last forever. The film captures that tension with almost documentary precision. Sailors especially appreciate the portrayal of command. Neither captain is reckless. Each weighs risk and responsibility with the seriousness expected of real naval officers. Their duel is not only physical, but philosophical. How far will you go to achieve victory? What lines must never be crossed? And when you finally meet your opponent face to face, will you recognize the humanity behind the uniform? The enemy below also earns respect for showing the grind of operations. Fatigue, frayed nerves, quiet moments where crewmen share glimpses of their lives back home. These details matter because they reflect real service life. The sea is not always an explosion. Often it is endurance. When the final act reveals mutual recognition between the two captains, sailors understand. This film honors professional warriors on both sides. That authenticity makes it one of the most respected naval thrillers ever produced. Number 12, Tora. Tora Tora, 1970. Tora 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 remains one of the most respected war films among sailors because it tells the story of Pearl Harbor with discipline, accuracy, and an unwavering commitment to detail. There is no melodrama, no artificial heroism. Just the cold mechanics of history locking into place as two nations march toward collision. Sailors admire how the film portrays preparation communication lapses and the complex machinery of naval aviation. The Japanese perspective is depicted with equal weight, showing careful planning, hierarchical pressure, and the deep sense of duty that shape their operations. Sailors appreciate this objectivity. Real war at sea is rarely simple. It is the result of decision strategies, misunderstandings, and momentum. The film presents both sides as professionals navigating immense logistical challenges instead of caricatures. The recreation of ship movements, aircraft launches, and harbor procedures reflects meticulous research. Veterans often remark that the deck operations feel genuinely lived in. The noise of engines, the rush of deck crews, and the precision of carrier aviation reflect realities that have not changed in decades. Even the buildup of tension echoes what sailors know well. Disaster is often not a sudden event. It is a series of warnings unheeded. When the attack begins, the choreography is stunning yet grounded. Explosions are neither exaggerated nor sensationalized. They are presented with the grim weight of historical tragedy. Sailors value films that honor the dead by portraying events truthfully. Tora 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 achieves that balance. It shows the cost of complacency, the fragility of peace, and the brutal speed with which the ocean can swallow entire fleets. Because of that commitment to truth, it remains essential naval cinema. Number 11, Battle of the River Plate, 1956. Battle of the River Plate is revered by sailors because it treats naval warfare as a disciplined martial science rather than pure spectacle. Based on real events, the film reconstructs the hunt for the German pocket battleship Admiral Graf Spee with a level of authenticity seldom seen in mid-century war films. Sailors respect how the movie portrays communication maneuvering and the nerve-wracking uncertainty of long-range engagements at sea. The British cruisers, Exeter, Ajax, and Achilles, are shown operating with the rigid professionalism that real sailors recognize. There is no chaos. Commands flow with clarity. Each officer knows his role. Each rating trusts the rhythm of the ship. This depiction of naval cohesion earns admiration because it mirrors the real world where training is everything and hesitation is fatal. The film also respects the intelligence and humanity of the Graf Spee crew. Their captain is not portrayed as a villain, but as a leader trapped between duty and survival. Sailors understand this dilemma deeply. The ocean does not favor nations. It tests individuals. And the film, Andessa, captures the emotional weight of those who must choose between pride and preservation. What sailors especially praise is the film's realism in tactical decision-making. Ships do not magically appear. They maneuver over vast distances, interpreting smoke trails, gun flashes, and radar pings. The tension comes not from explosions, but from calculation. Who will turn first? Who will fire first? Who will make the fatal mistake? When the battle reaches its climax, the film reminds viewers that victory at sea often comes not from brute force, but from strategy, endurance, and psychological pressure. For its respect toward real naval operations, this film remains a strong favorite among veterans. Number 10, Midway, 2019. Midway stands tall among the naval films respected by sailors because it treats the Battle of Midway not as myth, but as a precise chain of decisions that shaped the entire Pacific War. The film reconstructs this turning point with an intensity that honors the aviators, sailors, and intelligence officers who fought against impossible odds. Sailors admire the commitment to accurate ship details, aircraft behavior, and technical procedures that the film brings to life. The movie stresses the importance of intelligence work, showing how careful code breaking tilted the balance of power. Sailors appreciate this because real naval victories are seldom about firepower alone. They come from information discipline and timing. Midway embraces that truth with its focus on the unsung analysts who discovered when and where the Japanese fleet would strike. Their quiet heroism becomes as vital as the dogfights unfolding above the Pacific. The film also captures the spirit of naval aviation. Deck crews working with precision under scorching heat, pilots wrestling with failing engines and dwindling fuel, torpedo squadrons flying into a storm of anti-air fire with little chance of survival. Sailors recognize the authentic rhythm of these operations. The chaos is real, yet never exaggerated. It is duty under fire. It is commitment to the mission above self-preservation. Characters like Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey reveal how individual decisions alter history. One wrong turn could have sent the fleet searching empty ocean for days. Instead, his intuition led American dive bombers directly to the Japanese carriers. Sailors respect this portrayal of leadership. Calm in the face of uncertainty, courage shaped not by glory, but by responsibility. Midway succeeds because it does not sensationalize war. It respects the timeline, the machinery, and the humans inside the engines of conflict. It shows mistakes, it shows luck, it shows sacrifice, and sailors value truth above spectacle. That is why this modern portrayal earns their admiration. Number 9. The Cruel Sea, 1953. The Cruel Sea holds a place of deep respect among sailors because it understands something many naval films overlook. The true enemy at sea is often the ocean itself. This film strips away glamour and replaces it with the grim, relentless reality of escort duty during the Battle of the Atlantic. Sailors admire the film because it shows their world with honesty. Long nights, sleepless watches, relentless storms. The constant fear of U-boats lurking beneath the waves. There are no exaggerated heroics here, only endurance and duty. The film follows the crew of the HMS Compass Rose as they escort convoys across a hostile ocean. Sailors recognize the accuracy in the shipboard routines, the strain of sonar operators trying to distinguish enemy contacts from the roar of waves, the weight on commanders who must make split-second decisions that could save merchants or doom them. The uncertainty that fills every quiet moment is represented exactly as sailors know it. The ocean can turn stillness into terror without warning. Captain Erickson stands as one of the finest portrayals of naval leadership in cinema. He is not a man of bold speeches. He is a man shaped by responsibility, grief, and perseverance. Sailors respect him because he reflects real command, calm, reluctant, hardened not by ego, but by experience. He understands the cost of every decision and carries that burden silently. His defining moment, the tragic depth charge attack that risks friendly sailors, is portrayed with emotional precision. Sailors feel the weight of that scene because such decisions haunted real World War II officers. The Cruel Sea excels in depicting the teamwork that keeps a warship alive, ratings and officers united by exhaustion, fear, and necessity. Number 8. The Caine Mutiny, 1954. The Caine Mutiny is not about explosive battles. Instead, it focuses on the psychological pressure of naval leadership. Sailors respect this film because it understands a truth that few movies dare to show. War at sea is not always fought with guns. Sometimes it is fought with judgment, doubt, and the unbearable weight of command. Captain Queeg stands as one of the most compelling portrayals of a flawed leader in naval cinema. Sailors appreciate the film's commitment to authenticity in the courtroom scenes and in the daily operations aboard a minesweeper. The routines, the drills, the unspoken hierarchy, the expectation that officers must maintain calm even when uncertainty dominates every decision. Real service members know that command is not granted by rank alone. It is earned through trust, competence, and composure. When those qualities fracture, the entire ship trembles. The film explores how fear and insecurity can warp leadership. Queeg is not a villain. He is a man collapsing under responsibility. Sailors witness this truth often. Command can break even strong officers if pressure mounts without support or clarity. The mutiny itself is portrayed not as rebellion, but as a desperate act by officers who believe the ship is drifting toward disaster. This moral complexity earns respect because it is honest. The sea does not tolerate fragile leadership. In the courtroom climax, the officers confront the consequences of their choices. Sailors appreciate how the movie refuses easy answers. Right and wrong blur. Heroism becomes humility. The real villain may not be Queeg, but the silent witnesses who allowed his decline unchecked. This insight resonates deeply with veterans who understand the burden of speaking up and the cost of staying silent. The Kane Mutiny remains respected because it captures the emotional storms that rage beneath the surface of naval duty. It is a film about pressure and accountability. A film that reminds sailors that the greatest battles sometimes take place within the mind. Number 7. In Harm's Way, 1965. In Harm's Way resonates strongly with sailors because it approaches naval warfare through the lens of responsibility sacrifice and the painful rebuilding that followed the attack on Pearl Harbor. Instead of stylized heroics, the film portrays officers and crew grappling with the grim reality of a fleet struck down and forced to rise again. Sailors admire this dedication to authenticity because naval life often unfolds in long, demanding stretches between moments of violence. The film shows how strategy and leadership evolve under pressure. Admiral Torrey is depicted as a steady and thoughtful commander. His decisions reflect the sober mindset sailors expect from real leaders. He is not reckless. He is not theatrical. He carries the scars of his mistakes and the weight of the men under his command. Sailors appreciate this realism because the finest officers are shaped not by perfection, but by accountability. In Harm's Way also respects the daily rhythm aboard ships. The quiet tension before battle, the hushed conferences, the private grief after losses. War at sea is as emotional as it is tactical, and the film gives equal weight to both currents. It shows the human cost of naval operations without ever losing sight of the strategic challenges that define them. The combat sequences focus less on spectacle and more on cohesion. Ships maneuver with precision. Crews react with discipline forged through training. The chain of command functions as the spine of survival. Sailors recognize this truth instantly. Victory is rarely loud. It is the result of coordination and resolve. The film also addresses the immense effort required to rebuild a damaged fleet. Logistics, personnel transfers, hard decisions made in dimly lit map rooms. These details matter because they reflect the unseen labor that keeps navies afloat. In Harm's Way honors this difficult work. For its sincerity and scope, sailors hold it in high regard. Number 6. Run Silent, Run Deep, 1958. Run Silent, Run Deep stands as one of the foundational submarine films respected by sailors for its commitment to realism, tension, and psychological complexity. The movie explores the duel between discipline and obsession, as Captain Richardson pursues a Japanese destroyer with a focus that borders on fixation. Sailors recognize the authenticity in this portrayal because submarine warfare demands unwavering attention, yet punishes emotional rigidity. The film captures the brutal environment inside a World War II diesel submarine. Tight passages, dense heat, men stacked in bunks like puzzle pieces. Every sound matters. Every silence matters more. Sailors praise how the film portrays depth charge attacks, the shaking hull, the falling dust, the breathless wait as explosions creep closer. These scenes reflect real accounts from veterans who lived through those bone-rattling moments. What makes the film respected is its honesty about conflict within the crew. The tension between Richardson and his executive officer, Lieutenant Jim Bledsoe, showcases the friction that arises when leaders differ in method or motive. Sailors understand these dynamics. The submarine is the most unforgiving environment for fractured trust because every man depends on the next for survival. The tactical engagement is depicted with admirable precision, shadowing, diving, evasive maneuvers, torpedo firing solutions built on instinct and experience. Nothing feels exaggerated. The stakes are human, not cinematic. The crew must choose between loyalty to command and loyalty to each other. In the end, the film reveals that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is steady. Sometimes it is humble. Sometimes it means stepping aside. Run Silent. Run Deep remains a sailor favorite because it respects both the machinery of war and the men who serve inside it. It captures the claustrophobia, the strain, and the razor-edge decisions that define life beneath the waves. It is naval drama at its most authentic. Number 5. Master and Commander. The Far Side of the World, 2003. Master and Commander, the far side of the world, holds a sacred place among sailors because it portrays the age of sail with craftsmanship, reverence, and authenticity. This is not a fantasy of tall ships. It is a living, breathing vessel carved from sweat rope tar and discipline. Sailors praise the film for its astonishing attention to detail, from the creak of the hull to the frantic teamwork required to survive storms, cannon fire, and disease. Every moment feels earned. Every sail raised feels like a feat of human endurance. Life at sea before engines demanded strength, trust, and knowledge that could not be faked. The film also honors leadership. Captain Jack Aubrey is not a caricature of bravado. He is a man who must balance friendship with authority, compassion with necessity, and daring with responsibility. Sailors recognize this balance because it reflects the true burden of command. Aubrey inspires not by perfection, but by conviction. He leads by knowing his men and by respecting the thin line between courage and recklessness. The movie reveals the science of naval warfare in the early 19th century, maneuvering under wind power, anticipating swells, reading the ocean like a seasoned navigator. These subtleties matter because sailors understand that mastery of the sea comes from experience, not force. The duels with the French privateer highlight strategy, patience, and respect for an enemy who is equally skilled. What makes the film unforgettable is its portrayal of life aboard a wooden warship as a floating world with its own laws and rhythms. The ship is a character. The crew is a family shaped by hardship and hope. Sailors admire this truth. Master and Commander does not entertain. It immerses. It honors the men who conquered oceans with courage and cloth alone. Number 4. Greyhound, 2020. Greyhound is respected by sailors because it delivers one of the most precise and disciplined portrayals of convoy escort duty ever filmed. The movie wastes no time on melodrama. Instead, it plunges the viewer into the relentless grind of protecting merchant ships from hidden U-boats during the Battle of the Atlantic. Sailors appreciate how the film captures the rhythm of naval combat. Tight communications, rapid course corrections, calculated guesses made under crushing pressure. The bridge becomes a crucible where every decision can cost or save hundreds of lives. Tom Hanks portrays Captain Krause as a leader defined not by ego, but by duty. He is understated, yet powerful. Command for him is not glory, it is burden. Sailors admire this portrayal because real officers rarely shout or swagger. They lead with clarity, restraint, and devotion to their men. The film's emphasis on protocol and procedure reflects this truth. Every order is crisp. Every response is measured. The chain of command moves like a finely tuned engine built on trust. Greyhound also excels in its depiction of sonar warfare. The eerie pings, the sudden bearings, the guessing game between hunter and hunted. Sailors respect the realism of these sequences. U-boat attacks were battles of nerves, not spectacle. The danger lurked below, unseen and unforgiving. The film never loses sight of the human element. Exhaustion, fear, resolve. Captain Krause stands on the bridge for nearly 2 days without rest because sailors know that the ocean does not wait for sleep. Greyhound honors that truth. It shows leadership as endurance and service as sacrifice. For its precision, intensity, and authenticity, sailors hold this modern naval film in high regard. Number 3. The Hunt for Red October, 1990. The Hunt for Red October earns deep respect among sailors because it treats submarine warfare as an art of silence, patience, and intellect. There are no chaotic battles. Instead, there is tension knitted from whispers, sonar pulses, and the clash of minds between commanding officers. Sailors appreciate that the film understands a submarine is more than a machine. It is a sealed world filled with secrets, doubt, and duty. The portrayal of sonar operations feels remarkably true to life. The quiet room, the listening, the gathering of faint clues from the ocean darkness. Real. Submariners often say that the film captures the feeling of being hunted and hunting at the same time. The duel between stealth and detection defines their profession. The movie respects that complexity. Captain Ramia stands out as one of the most nuanced leaders in naval cinema. A man weighed down by loss, seeking a future beyond political conflict. Sailors appreciate this depth because true command is shaped by personal history and moral conviction. His officers respond not to fear, but to trust and belief in a mission larger than themselves. The American side is treated with equal respect, professionalism, restraint, analytical thinking. The scenes aboard the USS Dallas resonate with sailors because they depict teamwork without theatrics. Decision-making is measured. Risks are calculated. Every movement feels grounded in real submarine operations. What seals the film's reputation is its atmosphere. The thrum of engines, the red lighting, the isolation of steel beneath miles of water. Sailors say this film feels like a submarine. It understands the claustrophobia, the quiet terror, and the tactical chess played in the deep. Few movies capture that environment so faithfully. The Hunt for Red October remains a cornerstone of naval storytelling. Number 2, Das Boot, 1981. Das Boot reigns as the most brutally realistic depiction of submarine warfare ever created, and sailors respect it with near universal agreement. The film does not romanticize the sea. It exposes the terror fatigue and slow psychological erosion that come from living inside a metal tube hunted from above. Everything is narrow. Everything is loud. Everything is wet. Veterans often remark that the film captures the smells, the heat, and the tension of diesel submarine life with uncanny accuracy. The film follows the crew of U-197 as they endure relentless patrols, depth charge attacks, and emotional collapse. The cramped cinematography mirrors the suffocating environment of real submarines. Sailors respond to this authenticity because life below the surface demands constant vigilance. Every leak, every spark, every sudden jolt could mean death. Yet the film transcends nationality. It reveals the humanity of the crew. Men longing for home, men cracking under fear, men performing miracles of engineering to keep their damaged vessel alive. Sailors admire this honesty. War at sea is not ideology. It is survival. The depth charge sequences remain some of the most respected in cinema. The shaking lights, the metal groaning, dust falling from overhead pipes. These moments reflect real accounts from World War II submariners who endured hours of bombardment, unsure if the next explosion would split the hull. Das Boot earns its reputation because it shows the truth. Not glory, but endurance. Not triumph, but exhaustion. Not heroes, but humans pushed to their limits by the unforgiving ocean. Sailors say that if you want to understand submarine warfare, you start with Das Boot. Number 1. The most respected naval war film, The Battle of the Coral Sea, 1959. Sailors hold the Battle of the Coral Sea in high esteem because it represents one of the rare moments when cinema captures the tactical intelligence, emotional discipline, and operational tension that define real naval warfare. Unlike more sensational interpretations, this film respects the truth that sea combat is an exercise in patient strategy and unwavering resolve. It tells the story of the pivotal events leading into the first carrier versus carrier confrontation in history, and sailors admire how the film focuses on reconnaissance communication and leadership rather than exaggerated heroics. The movie highlights the complex chess game between American and Japanese forces as they maneuver across vast reaches of the Pacific. Sailors appreciate the portrayal of scouting flights because these missions determined the fate of fleets long before torpedoes and bombs left their bays. The film gives proper attention to how pilots navigated uncertain skies, relied on frail instruments, and carried the hopes of entire task forces on their shoulders. Their work was the nervous system of naval warfare, and the film honors that truth. The submarine sequences add further weight, the claustrophobia, the dim lighting, the silence that stretches until it threatens to suffocate the crew. Sailors recognize the realism in these moments because underwater operations require calm nerves and total trust in the chain of command. The film captures how every sound becomes a warning and every decision becomes a gamble measured in lives. What elevates the Battle of the Coral Sea to the top of respected naval films is its humility. It does not try to reshape history. It does not chase spectacle. Instead, it presents duty as the heart of naval service, sacrifice as its spine, and quiet courage as its voice. The movie ends not with triumphant bombast, but with the understanding that the Coral Sea was a turning point earned through discipline and teamwork rather than dramatic flourishes. 3. Naval war movies sailors do not respect. Number 3. Hunter Killer, 2018. Hunter Killer arrives with the promise of a modern submarine thriller, yet sailors overwhelmingly reject it because it abandons the discipline, precision, and technical realism that define true undersea warfare. The film fills its runtime with tactical shortcuts, impossible maneuvers, and a portrayal of submarine operations that feels more like a video game than a representation of the most demanding environment the Navy knows. Sailors immediately notice the inaccuracies, the exaggerated speed changes, the reckless navigation through underwater canyons, the disregard for noise discipline, which in real life is the difference between survival and destruction. The movie presents submarine crews as impulsive mavericks instead of highly trained professionals operating within strict procedures. Real submariners rely on coordination and calm judgment, not theatrical bravado. Orders are clear. Responses are immediate. Hunter-Killer replaces this realism with stylized dialogue and sudden leaps in logic. Sailors see this as disrespectful because their profession demands constant rigor and accuracy. A single mistake at depth means catastrophe. The film treats these dangers as mere background flavor, which undermines the gravity of actual submarine service. The political storyline further distances the film from reality. Rather than exploring the complexity of military decision-making, Hunter-Killer portrays international conflict as a series of dramatic stunts that ignore how navies operate within rigid protocols and chains of authority. Sailors value authenticity in command portrayal, yet the film repeatedly steps outside what any real commanding officer would attempt. The submarine becomes an action hero rather than a strategic weapon guided by restraint. Number 2. Pearl Harbor. 2001. Sailors widely reject Pearl Harbor because it distorts one of the most tragic days in naval history. The film replaces sober reality with melodrama, turning a moment of national shock into a backdrop for romance. Sailors do not object to emotion, they object to the erosion of truth. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a complex military disaster formed through missed warnings, miscommunication, and overwhelming surprise. The film instead treats it as spectacle overshadowed by fictional stories that undermine the gravity of the event. Sailors also criticize the technical inaccuracies. Aircraft behavior, ship movements, and tactical responses often ignore established historical records. The pacing and choreography create impressive visuals, yet fail to honor the experience of those who lived and died during the attack. Real veterans knew chaos, not choreography. They knew smoke, heat, screams, and the crushing weight of responsibility while their world burned. Furthermore, the portrayal of leadership feels simplified. Officers are shown stumbling through confusion rather than demonstrating the disciplined determination that many naval personnel displayed, even in moments of catastrophe. Sailors admire courage under fire, but the film rarely captures the dignity and sacrifice that define the real response. Pearl Harbor attempts to honor the past, yet its romantic framing dilutes the truth. For sailors who believe history must be preserved with reverence, this dissonance makes the film one of the least respected naval portrayals. Number 1. Battleship, 2012. Battleship stands as the most widely rejected naval film among sailors because it abandons realism entirely. The movie transforms naval warfare into an arcade spectacle filled with physics-defying action scenes and alien technology. Sailors are not opposed to science fiction. They object to using real naval vessels and traditions while discarding the values, discipline, and procedures that define service at sea. In real life, warships operate through coordination training and precise communication. Battleship replaces these fundamentals with impulsive heroism. It portrays battles as loud, chaotic brawls instead of the strategic engagements sailors recognize. Even basic ship handling is exaggerated into dramatic flourishes that ignore real physics. For sailors who pride themselves on professionalism, these choices feel disrespectful rather than entertaining. The portrayal of enlisted personnel and officers further weakens the film's standing. Characters act not with disciplined resolve, but with casual attitudes that contradict naval culture. Sailors know that even in peacetime, the ocean demands seriousness. In wartime, it demands unity and calm leadership. The film instead treats the Navy as a backdrop for spectacle. Yet perhaps the most striking issue is the missed opportunity. Battleship could have been a tribute to modern seamanship. Instead, it delivers fantasy disguised as naval action. For sailors who serve on real decks under real pressure, the film stands as the least respected portrayal of their world. The sea remembers everything. It remembers courage, discipline, sacrifice, and truth. The film's sailors' respect are the ones that honor those values with authenticity and humility. The rest drift away like myths on the tide. These stories reveal what naval service truly demands and why its legacy endures across generations.